Most people would assume a scene like this needs a complex gear and lighting setup, when in reality it comes down to knowing how to control contrast and color temperature. Even if you only have 2 lights, one of which is barely bigger than the palm of your hand.
This video is sponsored by ZHIYUN, but everything I'm saying here is based on my own experience and opinion. You will find all the gear mentioned in this video down in the description.
Now, before talking about lights, we need to understand the intention behind these shots. So, the goal was to create a moment with the talent that feels intimate and almost untouched by the outside world, while still creating that subtle horror film style anxiety of what might happen next. That's why setting this up as a night scene was the right move for me, because it just gives you the perfect base for color contrast and light contrast. Now, speaking of lights, the backbone of this entire scene is my absolute favorite light at the moment. And I already told you about it in my last gear video. The Molus B500, a freaking beast. Let me show you why. Look at the scene we shot during the day to test run our night shoot. And boom, fooled you. This was actually the B500 set to 100% intensity and 2700 Kelvin, and it was shot late at night. That should give you a pretty good idea of how powerful this light actually is. I'm serious, faking strong outside light sources was never that easy in such a compact unit. You see where I'm getting at? The B500 is so powerful that it becomes the perfect light to establish the overall ambience and space of a scene. And that's exactly what we did here. So for the night scene, I positioned it outside of the house, high above on the C-stand to make it point down through the bathroom windows. I would say roughly 3.5 meters or about 11.5 feet above the ground. That way you can see that here in the wide shot, the light falls perfectly through the window as if it was actual moonlight. It gives our talent this nice edge and also some sweet slashes of light on different parts of the bathroom. Here, and here. I mean, of course, it could also be a bright street lamp, but either way, it suggests nighttime. What's really cool about this light is also I adjusted the intensity and color temperature through the Zhiyun Vega app. And I finally stopped at the maximum of 6500 Kelvin and an intensity of just 5%. But even at this low intensity, look what it does to establish this scene. A common misconception is that you need extreme lights that go up to 10,000 Kelvin or gels to achieve this cold bluish light, when all you really gotta do is understand your white balance. If you set your camera's white balance far below the light, like I did at 3000 Kelvin, the image already appears very cool and can easily be pushed further in color grading. So in my opinion, a CCT range from 2700 to 6500 Kelvin, like on the B500, is more than sufficient. And I gotta say, this whole light is more than sufficient. Everything is built into the unit. No power bricks, just a single cable, and it's very portable for its size. It also just has 2 dials for intensity and color temperature, which is about as intuitive as it gets. As I said, it's got Bluetooth control, a Bowens mount for a wide range of modifiers, and it's very quiet with its 3-fan system, even at higher intensities. I mean, just listen to this. A minor downside is that it's pretty much made of plastic wherever you look. So honestly, I can't really say anything about the longevity of the different parts, but so far it feels really solid to me. The second light in this setup is the M20C, and this light genuinely surprised me during the shoot. And the reason for that is simple. I used it as my key light, even though it's really not built for that use case, and it worked just fine. I mean, yeah, it's extremely well built, but with its small size and just 20 watts output, it's not what you would choose first when it comes to lighting your talent with a key light. At least not during the day. For this specific shoot, it was just perfect though. We only needed a light that is capable of lighting the subject just enough while making it look like it's lit by our practical candles here, or in combination with a small ceiling bulb somewhere outside of the frame. And since we wanted the set to be as clean and uncomplex as possible, I don't even know if uncomplex is a word, but you get what I'm saying, C-stands were a bit overkill for this tiny thing, which is why I rigged it with a magic arm directly to the plastic shower head above the talent. Now, this is really where the magic happened, because not only was I able to position the light really easily to my liking, the fact that basically everything on this tiny light is magnetic saved me from needing to rig up diffusion panels, grids, and barn doors in complicated ways. I controlled it with the app again, and I set it to 2500 Kelvin and a slight green shift to 5 as a warm counter accent to separate her from the cold outside light of the B500. And looking at it, I gotta say I really love how controlled the light spill is. Now, to achieve cinematic shots like this generally, composition and set design are just as important to build the emotion. So framing wise, I use different focal lengths on the 24-70 lens to guide how close we feel to the talent. Wide shots were mainly there to establish context to the scene and a sense of isolation in this specific case. I mean, you see the space, you understand where she is, and you feel that slight distance. Medium and close-up shots are where the intimacy really kicks in. What may surprise you though is that for every single angle I deliberately didn't change the position of the lights at all. This is not what you would normally do, so I just thought I'd mention it because I still think these shots came out great. And I also kept the set design super minimal on purpose. Of course, the candles play a huge role. We have the bathtub elements over here, and to keep the background from feeling flat or boring, we had a bathroom cabinet in the background, and I added curtains to the window before we started shooting. That way, the outside light from the B500 gets some structure and texture instead of just hitting a plain surface. So it adds depth and separation without needing another light. What's also really cool is it slices the light streak in half. We have soft on the right and hard on the left, creating a more even exposure with small light slashes throughout the frame. Oh, and before I forget, I didn't mount any light modifier like a reflector dish or anything else on the B500, as I felt like this would be the closest to what the moon would look like. So as you can see, I really limited myself to overall just two color worlds. Cold blue tones coming from the outside and warm orange tones coming from inside the bathroom. Now, before we come to my conclusion of these lights with some pros and cons, let me show you really quickly how I made my finishing touches and color grading. Converting your log footage to Rec 709 properly while doing all your favorite grading steps beforehand is of course the base. What was really cool in this specific case is that both the B500 and the M20C were very directional and specific in color temperature, and therefore it was so freaking easy to tweak some specific areas through some masking magic. I mean, look at this and look what all these different masks do to the image. Masking like this is definitely something I overlooked in my own gradings years ago, and maybe it also helps you level up your grading process. But always remember, lighting properly on set is always and should always be the first step to good color grading. Now let's talk about pros and cons of the lights. The biggest strength of the B500 is of course its power. It really is sufficient for 90% of the productions you can think of. It's simple and flexible enough to adapt to many different scenarios without ever feeling overcomplicated, and most importantly, bloated with features you don't actually need. A minor downside in my opinion is the package. At over $700 I would at least expect some kind of carry bag, which ironically the M20C has, even though you could almost put it in your pocket. Unfortunately for the B500, what you get is this simple cardboard box. Yeah, I really don't know about that. Now onto the M20C. For its size, it's insanely useful as an accent light, an edge light, or even a practical replacement, especially in tight spaces or situations where you want to keep your setup as clean and minimal as possible. Even though of course I used it as my key light in this video, it's really not meant to be that. Another pro is, with all its different magnetic mounting options and modifiers, it's very versatile to say the least, especially with its magnetic cage on that comes with it. Also, it's fully RGB, has a CCT range of 2500 to 10,000 Kelvin, precise HSI dimming, which means it keeps the saturation stable while dimming it, and like pretty much all the ZHIYUN lights, it's Bluetooth controllable through the app. That being said, there are some downsides as well. The fan is noticeably louder than what I'm used to with other lights, which really could make it less ideal for sound sensitive scenes. But listen for yourself. Now, saying you only need these two lights to be cinematic is not entirely true, of course, but not false either. In my opinion, the B500 takes away about 99% of the stress by giving you a no-nonsense light that simply works and gives you extreme power to be able to shoot at any time of the day or night. It's definitely one of my go-to lights from now on. And with the M20C, you get a nice kicker light that can work in so many situations, sometimes even as a key light, but is really made for what Zhiyun claims it to be, a fill light. As a key light, I would always recommend something stronger, like the X100 or the X200 RGB. And now, as always, I'm curious, what would you do with these two lights? Let me know down in the comments. And if you decide to buy these lights, feel free to use my affiliate links also down in the description. It won't cost you anything more, but it will definitely help support my channel and me making more videos for you. Alright, that's it for this one, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Peace.